Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? We had a question of the week this week, Sean, and obviously the big news, we talked a little bit about it on last week's show, was obviously Tennessee Titans had some positive cases. They continued throughout the week. We saw their game last week get postponed. Today was 2 straight days where they have had 0 new positives, which is a good thing. And if they have a third one tomorrow, they'll be able to reopen the facility, hopefully get back to action. Because for the second week in a row, we have a Titans game to predict. And last week, obviously, the game against the Steelers never came to be. But the question of the week I put out there, we had a couple responses on our social media, was should the NFL pause or cancel the season based on the outbreak with the Titans. Of course, then we saw what turned out to be a false positive with the Saints. Cam Newton had tested positive, almost kind of derailed the Chiefs and Patriots, but they got through okay and played the game last night. So it's as we talked about all year, whether it's college, whether it's NFL, whether it's all these other sports, it's kind of a fluid situation. And for me, I don't necessarily think that one team having an outbreak or at least a small outbreak that they were able to contain should necessarily cause the season to be canceled. But if it begins to get out of control, that's where the league has to kind of, even if it's simply, and I think the first step would be to pause. I don't think you should go from playing the games to canceling the season right away. I think you should give it time to breathe a little bit and give it a week, give it 2 weeks, have the teams kind of lock down their facilities, really try and hammer into their players. Like, look, you can't not follow protocols. You guys have to stay on top of this. If it gets any worse, we're going to lose the season. So I think, but right now it seems to have calmed down, and it would appear that everything should be on board. Now, again, this can change on a daily basis, but it should be okay to move forward into this week. But the league had a scare here, and how would you, Sean, if you were in charge, if you were in the Goodell chair, how would you kind of address these situations?
Well, I mean, number one is, people say you don't want to err on the side of caution too long, but you also don't want to overreact because people look at the short term and they say, well, this could get worse. But if you're also going to look at the long term, could also get worse. So, like, if you're going to suspend a season or put a halt to things for one team, maybe one, and then those couple scattered cases, you say, whoa, let's pause. You take a few weeks off. Well, then in 3-4 weeks, 2 teams have a hole, and then it's well, you did this last time. Is it going to be the same reaction? Are we going to reconsider? At least at this point, they haven't tipped their hat to how they're going to react to it. It seems to have calmed down for them. Now, it would have been a very different game if any other players in the Chiefs or the Patriots organizations beyond one had tested positive. Sounds like theirs were kind of more fluke cases as opposed to what seemed like a very concentrated outbreak in Tennessee. And for me, the interesting thing going forward is not so much should we have stopped, should we have done this. I think it's going to be what, because of the rumors of some protocol situations and breaking protocol in Tennessee, and that maybe being the cause of this outbreak, you're putting a lot of lives and a lot of dollars at risk by doing that. So if you can get to the bottom of who broke what protocol, what that means, and if you can't pinpoint who left, who went where, which you should be able to with the social tracing, even if you can, I think the team ultimately is going to get, just at a team level, should get something just to send the message out there to these teams. This is serious. Like, this is our livelihood. There's a lot of people even outside of our team that work in these stadiums that put a lot of stuff on the line to make sure things are safe. And, we just want to make sure that, so I think you're going to see some kind of over the top looking fines and I don't want to say like suspensions, but maybe. Yeah, I don't know where they'll draw the line, but I'd like to see something pretty severe.
Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? Yeah, and I mean, you saw, I don't know if you saw like on Twitter and stuff, it looked like the Raiders had a situation of some fundraiser events or something like that where there was, multiple players and personnel at like a dinner, no masks on, anything like that. So luckily so far, and again, it's so far, there hasn't been any positive cases with the Raiders. So, but yeah, and I think the league even had said that, potentially teams may face fines, suspensions, or potential forfeiture of games because of, for violating protocol. And if that's what it takes to get control of this thing, then quite frankly, as a fan who's been enjoying, watching the NFL and using it as a distraction from life right now, it's been well worth it. Tyler here in the comments, teams should be fined just like players and coaches that aren't wearing masks. Yeah, exactly. Like we've seen that with the NFL. Coaches and people on the sidelines that aren't wearing masks have faced fines because it's a league rule. So, the league has an opportunity here to take a situation that could have been, quite frankly, could have been worse. And obviously for the players and stuff that with the Titans that were affected, we haven't heard of anything, really severe in terms of symptoms or anything like that. So that's a good thing. But it could have been a lot worse, and the league has to learn from this, and the teams have to learn from this, and hopefully it doesn't become more of a problem than we saw here in the last 7 days or so.
Well, yeah, and those fines to those coaches and guys, people on the sidelines, kind of where it hit me that this could be a pretty severe if they have exited what semi bubble they're in. If there've been anything that the league hadn't approved of, I think you're going to really see them come down pretty hard, just based on how hard those fines were and how careful I've seen the sidelines be about, I don't know if it's just wearing them or about being filmed with them, but I've seen a lot of folks making sure that mask is on the sidelines since those fines went down.
Yeah, so I mean, it seemed to have worked. David on Twitter said that they should cancel the season. Ryan had said that at that point, and not our Dave, another Dave.
Right.
Ryan had said that only one game, which at that point then it became 2 games, had been rescheduled. If it becomes a trend, then look at canceling, but not until that point. So. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like it was one weekend, one game, that had to be moved later in the year. Luckily, with the Patriots and the Chiefs, they only had to move it one day. They got that game in last night, Monday night doubleheader. I'm never going to complain about that. But yeah, they kind of have dodged the bullet there. Tyler again says the league needs to hand down some punishments. If it gets too bad, that there needs to be more drastic. Yeah, and I think that's.
Don't worry, Tyler. I think they're coming. I think it's just a matter of getting to the bottom of who's responsible for what and what that responsibility was, and then ultimately at both a team and individual level. I think you're going to see some people get the book thrown at them pretty hard here. Yeah,
and I think the first set of whatever punishment comes, whether it's a fine to a team and the players. Or anything like that. I think it's going to be a situation where, that the first round of punishment, the league's going to say, look, Let's just use the Titans because they were the first one to really get egg on their face. This is the punishment to the Titans. If there are more issues in weeks 5 and 6 and beyond, a harsher punishment will be handed down to any teams that violate further. Like, I don't think it's going to be like, if a team has a first problem, they'll get the first problem punishment. I think the punishments are going to get harsher regardless of who are the teams that are causing issues, because the deeper you get into the year, the more things are at stake, and
you're invested further. Like you've now put more people at risk. You've spent more money, and you need to get that return.
Yeah, 100%. So I think it's going to be, for this week the punishment would be this. Anything beyond this, it's going to be that, and then so on and so forth. Like the league can kind of put out a memo like punishments are going to get worse every single time there's a problem, regardless of if it's your first infraction, second infraction, or 10th infraction. It's just going to get worse and worse. So hopefully the teams get put on notice. So thank you for those who responded to. Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order?